Hey guys, so what's going on? It's been a while, right? Yeah, it's been a while, and I've been kind of busy with starting new projects and new things going on right now. And this pandemic is like really throwing everything out of whack. You know, just being able to just work from home is good, but at the same time, it's also a pain because you have to constantly get online on meetings, and you can't just like yell at somebody across the room. I'll be like, "Hey, John, how did you load this thing? How did you do this? How did you do that? Or where is it?" You have to constantly be on the phone, and it's just it's yeah. Plus, your bosses lose a sense of scheduling. Like they lose a sense of time. Like they don't know when it's time to just quit working for the day. They just lost that. So they think that because you're home, you just available all the time. So it doesn't matter what time they're on. Just because they're workaholics, which I am too, but just because they're dedicated 100% fully to only that project, that they're on, they expect you to kind of be the same way. And that's not necessarily the same for everybody. I mean, like I have all the projects that I put my time into, including one of these being, for example, my YouTube channel. So I kind of have to like spread myself thin and some things. Another thing is, as you can see, I play guitar, so I need to spend some time in that as well and put some time into my guitar. And also I am a jiu-jitsu and judo player. I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I was going to get tested for a brown belt in judo, which is the one before black. But pandemic happened, So I'm pretty deep into that stuff too. But anyway, this video is not about that stuff. This video is about the Devtools console. Yes. So now, why am I excited about this? Because I know some people can value the DevTool console like a lot, okay? Because they use it. They've been in the business, they've been in this industry long enough to know how important it is to use the DevTools when you're working in web design, especially for front-end developers. Not so much for back-end developers. Back-end developers hardly ever use it. They use other ways to debug the problems and their program. But for front-end developers, we use the DevTool console a lot. So first of all, how did you get the DevTool? So we're gonna talk about that. What can you do with the DevTools? Like it has different tabs in it. What are the all the things that it can do? We're gonna talk about that as well. I'm going to be using a site that I'm actually currently building. However, that site that I'm currently building is not connected to an API. So there is some things in there that I'm not going to be able to show you, unfortunately, in terms of API connections and things like that. And how do you call an API, make a request, and get back from the header and get back in the body of the API. The promise that I'm using a lot of words that you probably don't understand because this video is mostly targeted for beginners, but still, there is a lot of stuff there that you can use. And even if you're not doing API, but however, if you were doing API, like I said, I kind of lost my train of thought here, but if you were using APIs and things like that, you could actually see what's coming back from the API, the response that you're getting back from the API, whether it's it failed or it was good and things like that. And when it is good, you can see exactly what you're bringing back from it. So there's so much you can use the Dev Console tool for. But this video being for a beginner concept, phase, is going to be mostly generated towards learning how to use the how to work with the CSS and how to work with JavaScript. Some of the JavaScript that I can actually show you that I have on this site here. But I will be using you basically at least this object, okay? So you can see all the other stuff that you can access from there as well. So anyway, enough talking. Let's get to how to work this out. So first of all, I have my Visual Studio Code open here with my site. Okay, you can use any site you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to have this site here, And one of the main things that I wanted to talk about, like I said, I'm gonna touch a little bit on the JavaScript and things like that for the Dev Console. But one of the main things I want to talk about is the CSS part, because this is what you mostly will be using as a beginner. What you mostly will be using the Devtools for your CSS and HTML, JavaScript as well. But that's CSS is mainly the biggest question. All the questions that I've been getting recently in the channel is because of that. It's like, why is my CSS not working when I just had a page in HTML, turned it into PHP, or maybe just brought an HTML page from another website into mine, and I thought I brought all the CSS with me, but it's still not working. What's going on? Why is the class is not working? And I'm gonna show you. We're gonna talk a little bit about specificity and things like that. All right, so let's get into this. I'm sorry, I keep getting yeah. Anyway, so first thing first, how did you get the DevTools? Okay, so a DevTools is a browser tool. It lives in the browser that you're using. Okay, now the new Internet Explorer Edge has a very good one, i.e. like the original Internet Explorer bleh, has one too. Bleh. Don't use IE. Internet Explorer is like eons behind in technology. They take forever to catch up with the technology that is being used today. Hardly any computer out there that is being manufactured today has Internet Explorer in it anymore. They all have Edge now. So Internet Explorer eventually is going to just die off. It's a dinosaur, and it still lives in the dinosaur era. It's gross. The only good thing Internet Explorer is for whenever your computer or your website is not working correctly, and your client calls you and tells you, I have this problem and it's not working. You can tell them, oh, that's probably IE. That's probably Internet Explorer. You can blame Internet Explorer on everything. It's our scapegoat, but it works. I'm gonna miss IE just because of that. Anyway, so again, Safari, Firefox, they also have a DevTools. It's okay. And Safari, that's what I said, right? No, I was talking about Mozilla Firefox. Sorry. Now Safari is another dying breed, of all browsers. And also Opera is like, they all have DevTools. Okay. Now Chrome has been the king of browsers for a while, and I think it will continue to be the king of browsers for a very long time. And they have excellent DevTools, and this is the one probably that most developers are going to be using, and you should be just developing on Chrome as well and using Chrome DevTools as well. So how do you do it? So I'm on the site here. I have the site that I'm working on, right? I have my page up and running. So anywhere you can click, there's different ways to get to it. One of the many ways that you can get to it is through your file folder. So if you have a menu up here somewhere, which I don't, on your browser that says file and all that, you can go through the menu options, but I don't really use that menu a lot, so I hide it. So the one thing that I can do is just click anywhere on the page, anywhere. Let's say I want to see what's going on with this box here, right? If I want to see what's going on with this box here, I'm going to right click on that box, and then you're going to see this part here that says inspect. Okay, and then you can just click on it and it will open the DevTools for you. Now another way is by just going straight to the Control-Shift-I, and it will open it just as well. So you can do it with the keyboard commands, or you can do it, like I said, by just right-clicking on the particular object that you want to inspect, with the DevTools, and it will just take you directly there, and it will open directly there on the DevTools. So we're gonna do it that way because I think that's the most accurate way to open it. That way you don't have to navigate through the DevTools to find this box that we want to inspect. You can just open that box right there and inspect that box right there, and it will take you directly to it. So that to me is the most accurate way. So again, I want to see what's in this box. I'm going to right click, I'm going to inspect it, and it opened in another monitor. So I'm going to bring it over, and it opened here. Now for you guys out there that never use the DevTools, right here, the DevTools window, it will most likely be docked. I think is to the bottom. It will be docked to the bottom, if and that's okay. This is helpful sometimes, but in some like smaller, I don't know. To me, docking it to the bottom is kind of like, I don't know. Like I want to have more. I want to see my entire screen. So I have two monitors, okay. And if you don't have two monitors, you should have two monitors. one monitor. You have to, okay, I know this is probably gonna lengthen my video, but I don't care. I have to tell you this. The rule of monitors, okay? One monitor, simple user, just somebody who's on Facebook all the time. 2 monitors, a developer. 3 monitors, a gamer. And 4 monitors is a show off. So, 2 monitors. So this is what you do, right? If you have 2 monitors, if you don't, then fine, put it here. What not to do? What not to do is put it on the side. Don't put it on the side. I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh my God, but I like it better on the side so I can just come down here all the way to the bottom and see everything. Yeah, that's great and everything, but the problem is that if you start messing around with the width of the width right here, then you'll go into the iPad mode of the site. And guess what? That necessarily isn't right if you open it back up again, or if this is a different size or whatever. It's just going to mess up with the size of your elements in here. And then they're not necessarily at this window size. This shouldn't be this small. This should be actually as wide as the window should be, right? So it's going to throw you off in a few things. So definitely don't put it on the side unless you're just doing some stuff that whatever is in here doesn't really matter, like JavaScript, for example. But if you're doing HTML, CSS, put it on the bottom, or like I basically undock it with this one. Okay, so when I go like that, it basically takes it off the there, and then it puts it on a separate panel. I like this better, especially because I have 2 monitors, so I can just move it like this to another monitor, and now I can see everything here, and then the other one which you can see because it's hidden in the other monitor where I have all the hidden stuff. Okay, so no, I don't really have. It's actually pretty. It's an empty desktop right now. I don't have any hidden stuff there, but I could, and you would never know. But I don't. Anyway, so back to this. Where were we? Inspecting this box, weren't we? Okay, so I was inspecting this box up here somewhere. Okay, this one I think it was. You can tell, okay, it was this one. So how do you use this? Okay, first of all, if you notice, it took me straight. You see how this line is highlighted here in gray. So it took me straight to it because I right-clicked on that box and I inspected it. So it took me straight to this text right here, which is the one that I'm inspecting. Now that I'm here, I can see, obviously that is an H4 tag that I wrote, and I have some content in there. And then as far as CSS goes, all of the CSS that you see here is applied to that H4. Okay, so before we go into exactly what's going on here with that H4 and all of this mess here, let's talk about the construct of the DevTools window itself. So elements. Okay, first of all, this right here, this guy right here, this pointer is so you can select something in the site without losing focus on the window. So like if you're trying to find out what's going on on this logo, for example, you can click here, and then you see how it's highlighted in blue, and now you can click on the logo, and it would take you, see, it would change the focus on here on this viewer directly to that image, and then you can see whether where the logo is stored at in your software, in your root of your website. It's just right here, it tells me that it's at the root in an assets folder, in an image folder inside the assets folder, and that's where it lives. So it helps you debug. Like if, for example, let's say this is not showing, you can come over here and you can mess around with this and change it, so like, to another path or whatever, and then it will show up. Like for example, let's say that this is exactly the problem. Like I put my logo, I referenced it to the assets folder, but when I put the website up, oh my God, look at this, it's not happening. What's going on? Well, I can fix it by coming over here. So like, oh, maybe I did the path wrong. So I double click in there somewhere, and I was like, let me put the image folder in there to see if it finds it. Oh, look at that! Look at that! It found it. So now I can just go to my code and correct my path. Put the img/ in the path in there, and then that's how I was able to figure out what was wrong with this image. Okay, so this is a good thing to target specific items in the page that you want to target and you want to inspect. And then this viewer right here is your HTML, which is how you can test different things. Like, I don't know, like this site header. What if I wanted to add, some UK padding, class in there to see what it does? I can do that, and look at that. It just gives me some padding to it. And guess what? Everything that you're doing here, that you're doing to the site, you're doing it basically in testing mode. No one else in the world can see what you're doing. This is only happening locally. Nobody can see it from, like, you're not really changing the site at all. And all of this that you're doing right here will be lost as soon as you refresh. Okay, so as soon as I refresh, boom, gone. Everything is back to normal. Because everything that you're doing right here is just basically, you're just messing around with your local representation of the site on your browser at this moment. And only your local. Not the actual website that lives in the internet that everybody can see. Okay, so keep going. So this right here, this toggle device, toggle the device. This toggle the device toolbar. What this does is basically shows you different views for different mobiles. So if I click on it, it shows you this iPhone view, and then if I click it again to iPad, then it shows me the iPad view. So it helps you figure out how's your website going to look on different mobile devices. So this is for responsive design and things like that. As you can see, this website is going to look fabulous on an iPad, and it's going to look just fine. That's a small tiny iPhone, and it's going to look just fine on an iPhone as well. So this is a very nicely done responsive site, and it has it has a responsive menu and all that good stuff. Okay, so how do I get out of that? Go back to my thing over here and unclick it so you can toggle it. So now that we toggle it, it's back. Okay, now this tab right here, this is how you start to find different things in it. So the elements basically it should just be renamed to HTML, because that's basically what it does. It just lets you see the HTML elements in the site. Okay, and then within here, so this elements window is split into two. It shows you all the HTML in it, and then it shows you on the side all the CSS that applies to this, but not just the CSS. I mean, in this case, the style, so that's the CSS. And it also has this computed for, like, for example, this header right here. I'm looking at the header. This is what's highlighted, right? It's telling me that the header is using all of these computer properties on CSS, and you can check even further by opening it, and it will tell you in which style sheet this site header width at 1695 or whatever, where is being stored. So you then can go to that CSS style sheet and fix it there and manipulate it there, change it there, or whatever. In my case, because I'm using only one style sheet, basically everything that I hover here, it's all, well, except for this one, it's all going to be either here or in the framework style sheet. This framework style sheet is my UI kit framework CSS style sheet that I will never ever touch. Never touch your framework CSS style sheets. This is my main style sheet. This is the one that I use to override the stuff that's in here. So if I don't like this line height at 1.5 and I want to make that line height 2.5, I go to my style sheet there, not this one, and then I make my line height 2.5 or whatever in this style sheet. So this is the style sheet that I want to obviously always go. But some people do have more than one style sheet. Some people have 2 or 3 different style sheets depending on what they're doing with it. So this computed here helps you find where that particular style or that particular CSS property is being located at. I'll be honest with you, I don't really use it that much. The styles also offers the same thing. So like if I'm over here, let's go back to the logo, right? So if I'm over here in the logo and I kind of want to, let's go back up one step here to this class, the site logo BTN, and I want to manipulate this class, right? This CSS class. I can come over here and I can see if I am even referencing that class, which I'm not. So I'm not even using this class. I could just basically delete it to make sure And let's see. Oh yes, I am using it. I am using it, but I'm not using it. This is great actually, because this will come to what we're going to talk about, specificity. So as you can see, I'm not using the site logo btn class in itself, but I'm using it inside of some form of specificity. So I'm basically saying somewhere, maybe with this class, that's like, hey, look at the site logo, and inside the site logo there is a site logo btn, and inside the site logo btn there is an image, and then do this. So I created a path, site logo btn, image, do something. So what happens is, if I take this site logo btn like I just did just a second ago when I took it off, then the site logo is not going to find the site logo btn. Therefore, the image basically never really gets touched. The specificity got broken, and therefore, the logo changed. It lost the property that told it to go small, to be small. Okay, so that's specificity. It's called specificity because you are making a specific path for the CSS to work only when that path of classes hierarchy is true. If that class hierarchy is corrupted, broken, there's another one in the inserted, another div inserted. If it changed in any way, then that CSS at the end is not going to be true. It's kind of like breaking an address, right? So like if you tell a mailman to take a letter and you give him an address for the house, if you remove some part of the address or add a different part of the address, the package doesn't get there. So yeah, so now, however, let's say, for example, let's go back up then one more step, site logo. Where am I using all this CSS? Oh, okay, here you go. So this is how I'm using the specificity here in this case. In this case, I'm telling my logo to be a width of 120, but the only way that that logo is going to be at 120 width is if the logo is in this particular specificity. It has to be inside of a class of named site logo btn, which it has to be inside of a class called logo container, which it also has to be inside of a class called site header desktop, which it also has to be inside of a class of site header. All of those elements have to exist before IMG, before the logo itself right here hits it. If it's not, then this right here will never happen. Now let's see if that's true, which I know it is, of course, but let's see if that's true. Image, I'm there. It should be inside of a site logo btn. Here it is, which is inside of a logo container. Let's find it. It should be the next one up somewhere. Right here, logo container, which is inside site header desktop. I clicked, sorry. Okay, which is inside header desktop. And there it is, site header desktop. And then which is inside site header, which is right above it. As you can see, they don't have to be specifically one, inside the next one. They don't have to like follow it like exactly the immediate child of the other class. They just have to be in that order. Even if there is stuff in the way, it's not really a big deal. Unless you use this guy here. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of small, but let me see. Control, no, it's not. Oh, too much right here. Okay, could you? Okay, one more. Okay, I don't know if that's messing up my side in the back. Probably not. Okay, so unless you can see this guy right here, I don't know if you can see it, but this guy right here, this is an operator that in CSS, it basically gives an instruction to the CSS that this image is going to be directly underneath. It's going to be the direct child of a class site logo btn, which it is. Site logo btn, and the direct child is going to be img. However, here logo container and site logo don't have that operator in here, which means that site logo btn is going to be inside somewhere of logo container, but not necessarily the direct child of it. There could be other elements in between. And as you can see, logo container is here and site logo btn is here. Site logo is in the middle of it, which is not even used. Because site logo is not being used in this specificity right here, removing site logo will not affect this specificity. Okay, and I can prove that by just removing that, and you see how it never changed the logo itself. It's probably used for other things. I'm sure I put it there for a reason, but it's definitely not used for that particular CSS right here because it's not in the address. Okay, so now, but if I add it to the address, I believe it was in here somewhere, site. But if I add it to the address, then now it has to exist because I added it to the address. That's how specificity works. So if I go like that, see, now all of a sudden this is grayed out. It's not working. It's not 120 pixels width anymore because it doesn't exist. So I'm gonna come over here again. I'm gonna add it back. Edit as HTML. And I'm gonna add my site logo class back again. And then guess what? Now it's back to 120, and my image thing here is again site logo is 120 because the site logo is here, but it's also here. It's all matching. It's gonna take a little bit on time to understand specificity, and there's plenty of content on the internet that explain how specificity works, but this is why sometimes I know I have a video out there that is called converting HTML to PHP, which I kind of want to put a quote on that, because you can't convert an HTML file to a PHP file. It sounds a little weird when I say it that way, because I named the video kind of like in context of what the tutorial was meant for. The tutorial was meant for building a very, 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 very beginner size HTML website, and then we're gonna start building it completely in HTML, and then we were going to then make those HTML files PHP files. So I said converting HTML to PHP, as in like basically just turning these HTML pages into PHP pages, but not really converting the actual HTML into PHP. There is no conversion. However, in that video, I have people concerned about their CSS breaking a little bit, and the reason why is because once you use PHP and you use injection tags like the includes tag, sometimes it adds a div, like another extra div inside your HTML. And that happens a lot also with frameworks like Vue HTML and React. Vue HTML? Wow! I totally messed that up. Vue.js. So that happens with Vue.js, that happens with React.js, that happens with Angular even. It happens with a lot with all these JavaScript frameworks that, once you start injecting templates and injecting views inside of other views, you're using extra divs, and these extra divs sometimes they break the specificity, the path that you need in order for the HTML and your CSS to be true. Your CSS is true in whenever you have a specificity. It's only true if that path is specifically constructed that way also in the HTML. So again, use your divs, your DevTool here, to inspect those pages that you have a problem with and see if your HTML and your CSS is not matching. Okay, and correct it. All right, so another thing I want to, let me see, open this up a little more so you can see more inside of this HTML CSS part. Other things that you can see within this, what else we have? So we saw the styles, that's basically CSS. Computed is more like specific CSS. Event listeners, you can see some of the event listeners that this is a little bit heavier duty here. Probably not going to touch too much on that. Let's just actually stay here for a little bit. So now let's see, for example, let's say that I want to see what this right here, you see how when I hover it, it turns into green. Like I want to see that. I want to see that green part, right? So I'm going to come over here and click on that and go to this guy here. And I can see here that this is my UK navbar nav LIA blah 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 blah. Okay, this is my framework CSS, so I don't really want to change anything here, but this is where it's coming from. All these transitions and uppercasing and all that stuff is coming from there. And then in my own style sheet, I'm giving it some specific instructions. I want it to be this particular font size, this color, and this font weight. Okay, but where is the hover? I don't see the hover anywhere. Why can't I find it? Okay, why can't I find it when it's actually hovered? Well, something here has to be hovered for that to work, right? So Usually it's going to be the bigger parent above it, not the tiny one, the A, but the bigger one, the LI. So I'm going to click on that, and I still can't see anything. But you see this glass, this stuff here? I click on the hover, and I click on hover, and then look what happens. I activated the hover without actually hovering on it, because I'm activating this element state, so it can show me in the HTML where I am addressing that hover state as well. So now I can come down here and see, okay, it's not done to the LI directly. So let's see the right here, and here it is. You see it right here, LI hover A. So I'm telling my website to go through all this specificity, and then when you get to the LI, right, if it's hover, this is the pseudo class hover right here with the 2 column. If it's hover, then do this to the A inside it, to the A element, and you can see, and now I can debug it. Now I can change it to whatever color I want, and whatever. And like I said, remember, this is not changing anything. I can refresh the window and all of this go back to normal. Okay, I can just Control C as well, and it will give me back what I want. There you go. It'll give me back my stuff, you know, things like that. So you can see this dot here, and it will tell you if you hover, what are you doing to this here. You're putting it on a hover element. I can click back over here, and I can check now also the focus. I want to see if the focus is doing anything. It is. It's doing that. And the active state is not doing anything. The visited state is not doing anything. So you can see different things. Okay. All right. Let's close that by clicking on it. What else can we do here? Let's say now, for example, that I want to add something to this LI, right? Let's say I want to add, I don't know, some border on the right side of it. So I can come over here and I can click this plus, and then look what it does, right? It gives me the element that I'm on. But this is a little too generic. If I do anything to this LI, it's going to do it to every LI, every list item in the entire website. That's a little crazy. Never do that. You want to do it just to this menu item, right? So we're going to do a little bit of specificity actually now here. As you can see, this LI belongs to the UK navbar. Now, that's a little bit more specific. If you do anything, and we'll do that as a matter of fact, I click inside that, go to the beginning by clicking on the home key or just the arrow key if you want to. And I'm going to target this UK navbar nav. So UK navbar nav and give it a space. So now if I do anything to this, I'm gonna actually, you know what, I'm gonna color it. Yeah, I'm gonna do a border. So border right, and I'm gonna give it a 2 pixels. It's gonna be solid and it's going to be red. There you go. So now I just did that, right? I gave my UK navbar LI a border right of red. Now that is good because now by adding this specificity here, I'm not doing this border right to every LI that exists in my website, which will be really crazy. I'm doing it only to the LIs inside the UK navbar nav LI. Okay. But the problem with that is that you see now, you see this red one here next to this, it's also adding it to these guys here because these are also inside the UK navbar nav. So you see how it's now, the specificity is important because you want to be even more specific. You don't want it to be done to all of the LIs that are in there because there are others like these LIs, and that's why it's happening. It's being done to those. So there are different ways that you can do this. You can specifically exclude the UK navbar drop-down nav by adding the not, 2-column not NOT class to exclude it. This is probably going to confuse you a little bit. The easiest way to do it is to go then to this guy here. Go there. Okay, it's there. And then add another class there. But in this one, put another specificity. UK navbar nav. Okay, we're back in the same here. But in this case, I'm gonna say, okay, in the UK navbar LI, inside that, right? What is it? UK navbar LI. Inside that, there are going to be cases where there is another nested UK navbar drop down right here. So at that, because it's a class, UK navbar drop down. So now I want you to be more specific and look at the li, but then also keep going and look at the UK navbar drop down class if it's in it, if it exists. That wasn't gonna work. There we go. If it exists, I want you to look at it. And then inside there's going to be also a UL. And there it is. And then inside there, you see how I'm kind of using this to follow the specificity of the HTML. And then inside there will be an li. So now you see how it's colored is black. It's because I am exactly where this gray area is. That means my specificity that I just wrote works. If I do something like this, then you see now it's muted. That means I did something wrong here. Okay, so it's obviously the div. But if I do it right, it will be like that. It will be an active black. So it shows you that I am actually in the right place. Now I can go ahead and undo what I just did here by just basically saying border right, none. And then look at that. See, this one doesn't have the border right in red, but these still have it. Reason why is because, like I said, I created that specificity. Well, I told it to put that border right to every li inside my UK navbar, but I also specifically created a specificity path to negate that border right that I instructed earlier, only when that specificity, it's like an override. So I overwrote myself, basically. So this is how you can use this guy right here. So none of this right here really works on my site. It lives in my site. If I refresh my page right now, I lose this that I just wrote. So I use my DevTool sometimes to write code on the front end so that I can use it and put it in my site and kind of like see it at work before I actually go and put it in my site. So I come over here and I copy that, and then I go to my code and I open my style sheet, whatever it may be, and I find it in there somewhere. And I'm not really gonna do this, but just to show you. And then I come over there and I basically paste it in there, save it. And then now if I save it, when I refresh my site, then it will be there. You know what I am gonna do. So I'm gonna save that. You should see a green box in there for my compile, because I'm using SCSS. I'm using Sass. I'm not using straight CSS, but that's another day. And now if I refresh my thing, now it is saved into my website. So you can see everything, it works. Okay, but again, I'm not gonna use that because that's ugly. I'll take that off again, and it's compiled, so I can now it should be gone. All right, there you go. We're back to where we were. All right, so lost my voice. Excuse me for a second. I need to refill. That's good, Joe. It's cold because I'm talking to you guys, but it's good, Joe. It's early. It's early over here where I live. I like to make these videos early because everybody else is sleeping, so there's no noises, and you know. All right, so where were we? Okay, so yeah, so that's how you use a couple of this stuff right here. You can check out, you know, you can add a new class as well and then do it. I've never really used this before. I basically just end up writing it like I just showed you by just doing this and just writing it like that. So I just end up doing it that way. If you want to know a specificity, like exact specificity that you're in, highlight where you want to be, like right here, and you can see down here all the specificity written for you. This li excuse me, this li is inside of a ul, inside of a div, inside of an li, inside of a ul, inside of a div, inside of an inside of a div, 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 inside of a div. And if you hover over them, they even have the class. You don't need to write the entire specificity of your site. Okay, I just use, like, it's called a hook class. I use any class, any parent class, maybe as high as like a few elements up, and then I use that class as my hook class. and let's say for example I want the UK navbar right to be my hook class, I just basically say, hey, go with the UK navbar right, and then do something to this child of it in there on all these different steps. Okay. Now, how do I pick which one is the right hook class for me? It's usually a unique class. Like for example, I'm not going to pick this UK with 1-1, for example, because that class is used everywhere, and that class, what it does is basically it sets, or like even this one over here that says UK padding remove, that's a class that is made for removing padding. So it's done it's being used in many places where I want to remove padding. So it's a helper class. I don't use it on helper classes. However, the UK navbar right, that's a class that was specifically made for that navbar and to be on the right side of. So it's basically used in one place only. So it's a perfect class to use as a hook class, because anything that you do inside it will apply only to where that class was used, which in this case is only here. So uniqueness is good. All right, so now that we're basically done with this element section, we're gonna move on to the console. I'm not gonna touch all of this, just a few of them, okay? I know I'm kind of running a little higher on time here. So the console, this is basically for JavaScript, okay? So I'm not gonna go too far into this because I know that my channel targets a lot of beginners. So, and a lot of you don't have like this whole entire deep knowledge of JavaScript, but this is helpful to know. Okay, so here you can debug the JavaScript. You can see any errors that the JavaScript, as you can see right now, is blank. This is great. You want your console to always be empty this way. When it's empty this way, that means that your site is error free. If it has any errors at all, then it will show here, you will get an error in the console that's saying whatever, something went wrong. I don't know what could be going wrong. Now there's some stuff here that is being hidden, but they're possibly just maybe warnings, and I'm sure they are warnings. I don't know, whatever. There's some hidden warnings in there because the console sometimes tells you, like for example, like you're using Chrome, or you're using, or your viewport, you know, your window size is at this width and height right now. Like I don't need to know that stuff, so I hide it. Okay. But as far as like errors, I don't have the errors hidden. My errors should be showing if I had any. So if you don't have any red in here, that is a good thing. If you have some red in here, then it will show you some indication of how to fix it, or some indication of where the problem is, so you can address it and go there. I don't have any errors right now, so I can't really show you how to debug that. That will be another day I'll probably dedicate to debugging some specific errors. So how can you use this besides for debugging errors? So you could do, let's see, maybe you could do evaluations as well in here, so you can see 2 + 2 = 4, and that's basically JavaScript working for you. It's doing evaluations on the console itself, and you can set up a variable a equals to 2, right? And then you can call it, and then it says 2 right here. See, I gave my variable a the value of 2, and then just forget it's undefined here, and then when I call it, when I invoke it, it gave me the value of it 2, right? So if I override the variable with 3, then it will be, when I invoke it again, it will say 3, because, so these are different ways that you can do it. All right, clear the console, 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 clear it. Okay, so I'm gonna clear the console, and I want to, let's just see the this object. Okay, so there is the this keyword is used to find where the global value of this is, and in this case, this is pointing. There is a keyword in JavaScript called this, and I go into more details on this on my JavaScript tutorials, which I am building one right now that you should probably check into, and I should probably get back into, which is called Under the Hood, and it explains JavaScript from like the very, very basic concepts of how it even talks to the browser and all that. So it's a really good tutorial, and there is a part in there that I talk about this keyword and how important it is to use it, and where it points to and what it does and things like that. So like right now in this instance, this is pointing to the global object, which is the window object. And this is great. This is great. This is great because it shows you everything that your website is really using and everything that you have access to. So like you can see, I have access in my window object. I have access to a UI kit, which is my framework, and you're welcome to check it out. Just go to uikit.com and it'll show you like a lot of elements to build some cool HTML and things like that. UI kit icons. My A is there because I just created it a second ago. And because I created it, it's still attached to my window object. So that's why it exists and it's telling me that it's there. So this A equals 2 because it exists. But some of the stuff here that you're going to be using, or that could be helpful to you if you wanted to use it, is, for example, the history. So this is how you can use JavaScript to tell a button to go back, for example, back in the history. Like there's a back function in here. You can tell by this F right here that it's a function, and this is how you invoke it. So if you were gonna write some JavaScript and you told the button that on click of that button to invoke the back function like this, it will basically, whenever you click the button, it will go back in the history mode of your browser. It will go back a page. And you know all about the history of your browser. You know, the one that you clear all the time. Now, if you wanted to go back 2 steps when you click the button, you could do that. You could put back 2, and then it will go back 2 steps into the history of whatever you searched or whatever you navigated into. Let's say you clicked a bunch of times here, and you wanted to go back not like to the previous window, but you want to go back 2 steps into the window, so you can pass it as a parameter inside, as an argument inside of this back function. So this is a way, and same thing with forward. You can do a forward go to go specifically to a URL that you want to go to. And so there are different ways that you can use this history function here, this history object that lives inside of this. So other things that you can use here is, so local storage. It's, if you were using local storage, like a lot of it is done for like saving particular information that you're processing through the site, so that whenever if you refresh your window, you won't lose it. It will still be there. So this is like really hard, really complicated, to explain, and we don't have time for that. The location one. This is a very easy one to explain, so I'm gonna go over this quick. But the location right here, it shows you a lot of stuff about the browser and about the object, the window object that you can use. Like for example, it shows you your protocol. So if I put location.protocol, it will give me back that I'm using an HTTP. And if I want to know what port I'm using, it will give me that 3000, which you can see it up here. And if I want to know the path name, there you go. It's my index PHP right here. That's this right here. So this is used a lot for, and I think I have it in my tutorial, where if I want to add this home an active class so that it shows in green whenever I'm in the page that I am in, right? So let's say I go to this page, which is not coded, so I'm not gonna go there. Let's say I go to this about page and I want it to remain highlighted while I'm there, right? Well, because it's going to say about that PHP up here, I can use that. So basically I will be writing some JavaScript that says, hey JavaScript, if my browser, if my location path name says about us PHP, attach this class that makes it green. And that's how you basically get it to show up green whenever you click on the about page, because you instructed it to read what it's in here. And if it's about P, and if it says what you wanted to say, and that's true, then it will do whatever you want it to do. So that's one way to do things to it. If you want to know the entire URL, that's the href. There it is. It's stored here. So no matter which side of which page I go to, this will change accordingly. So this is pretty cool stuff too. And there's a lot more stuff here that you can, as you can see that this object is incredibly large. There's a lot that you can use in the this object. And the this object is not always, the this keyword, I don't know why I call it an object. It is an object, it is and the keyword is anyway. This cannot. It doesn't always point towards the window. Sometimes depends on where you use it. Like I said, there are in other tutorials I go more in depth on this, but depending on where you use it, it just may be pointing towards a particular piece of state inside of your JavaScript, or inside a piece of information, inside of a function. So it goes more in depth there. All right, so moving on. Sources. This basically explains all of the sources that you're using in your site. So like in my case, I'm using some fonts and CSS style sheets. Excuse me. So you can see CSS style sheets, some images, some JavaScript. That's it. Okay. So this is really not that helpful. Performance, I don't use that much. Network. If you were using APIs, and if I was using APIs here, this network will tell me down here if I make any calls to the API, and it will show on the side here if it fails for any reason, and if it didn't fail, then what kind of response I got back from that API. If I got any response at all, if I got any data back at all, things like that. So unfortunately, I can't show you anything here with it because I'm not connecting this site to an API just yet. Eventually I will, but I'll probably make another video for that eventually. Memory. So memory, basically this is where you start looking at your local storage and things like that, which I'm not. Actually, no, this is what the local storage is. So we talked about local storage and all that stuff. Right now my local storage is only have these two pieces attached to it, which is, so if I refresh my window, then this basically reloads again. So this is what local storage is made for. It's made to remember things and ignore the refresh. Now, however, I can specifically tell my local storage to dump, and then at a certain spot at a certain time, and then it will basically just dump all this information here, so it doesn't live on your browser forever. Security, I'm not going to talk about that right now. And then Lighthouse and Axe is for accessibility, which I'm not really going to spend any time on this because this requires another video also. But this is basically how to make your site so that people who have problems, vision problems, or are blind, they're able to use screen readers in order to read what's on your site. That's right, blind people go to the internet. And they use what is called screen readers, a thing that they can hear, and they basically just they can talk to the computer, to the browser, and then the browser reads back to them, you're in this website and you're on top of a logo, hit tab and then they have a tab button on the keyboard. Basically they just tab on to the next thing, and it tells them where they're tabbing to and what it, things like that. But if you don't write your HTML accordingly to that, then you're never going to be able to read back to them exactly where they are, and they end up lost, and they'll never be able to use the site. Therefore, you lose those clients, or you lose those users. A lot of people didn't really care much about that stuff, and they kind of was like, so where, whatever, which is kind of insensitive. They didn't care because that was a very small piece of population that they didn't care about losing. However, now it's becoming a little bit more of a problem because a lot of agencies that be and powers that be are pushing towards making that a mandatory thing, and sort of like if you had a business, you need to have a wheelchair ramp, just because you have to, or you get a compliance issue, and then you get a fine or whatever. So now they're trying to make accessibility a thing, that if your website is not compliant with all of these disabilities, including blindness, then they can shut down your site. So eventually get into that. All right, that's all I got for you guys. So I'll see you on the next one.